So, I don't know if you've heard, this game Highguard has come out, and it's not good. And it's been interesting seeing the reaction to it. There's people who like the game, and there's much more people who dislike the game, and they all have their own beliefs and stuff. And I am not a Highguard enjoyer. Just, off the top, I think it's important to preface with that. And I wanted to discuss, why people dislike the game, what it does right, what it does wrong, and how you could turn it into something that that people want to play. That you have a group of people that are larger and who enjoy specific elements of the game. And I'm not unbiased in this. I'm a level designer first and foremost. I'm a competitive Quake player. I love TF2, and so my thoughts on it are going to be very much biased by that. But I will try to go at this as unbiased and as much with an open mind as possible. Also, I'm sorry for the lack of Highguard footage in this video. I don't know. I didn't record any footage of it. I've watched people play it. I have much more experience of watching people play it than actually playing it myself. But I still think that I have enough of an understanding that I can make a video like this. So you'll just have to deal with the CPM footage instead. My apologies. And another note: this is not me shitting on a bunch of random game devs. It's very apparent, to me at least, that many of the people who were involved in the game were quite talented. Knew what they were doing. And were given something to work on that was kind of doomed to fail by the concept of it. And I think that reflects in the quality of the art, the sound design, the gunplay. There's a lot of stuff that is technically very good, but it just kind of goes into something that I think leaves a lot to be desired. So I want to talk first about just gameplay design wise why the game did not succeed. And I think the biggest issue is just that it's trying to be too many things. I'm very much a believer in less is more. One of my primary kind of precepts with game design in my own work, and especially for this kind of thing that's like a competitive shootery, very action based, is that the best and most fun and most cohesive experiences come from broad, simple elements kind of intersecting, and having the consequence of that be where the strategy comes from. Because it means that you have these things that are quite nuanced, even alone, just by nature of how wide they spread across things, and they combine with other things to have even more of that, because you're now managing a few things at the same time, versus like a million tiny different mechanics where it's just like a binary state switch or whatever, the way that you approach it, and there's just like a million of them, and you're just thinking about one thing at a time, because it's not really that's not real complexity, I think, is the best way to put it. It's not having variation in those choices themselves depending on the situation. It's just you make a choice and that makes something slightly different. Then you make another unrelated choice and it makes things slightly different. There's no consequences for unrelated decisions. And I think the best way to kind of demonstrate that is just to explain the game loop, basically. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to explain the phases to you, and you will, if you don't agree with me already, I'm quite sure you will after. Okay, so the first minute you spend just securing the base. So you go around and you build you fortify walls, you get rid of certain other walls. You're just walking around your base. You can buy guns through this little shop pop-up, but you can only buy the one, and then after this phase, you have to go to a specific place to buy things. So the next phase, the gear up phase, is 2 minutes. You basically are just running around the empty map outside of your base. Your half of the map, mind you. I don't think you can attack enemies. You go round and you open chests and you get armor and you get weapons. You can break crystals for points, and you can use the points to buy more weapons, more equipment, and upgrade things. So the next phase, it's kind of multiple phases, but I'm just going to condense it into the mid-fight. Basically, you can fight each other, the shield breaker spawns, and you can pick it up. The next phase, you walk to the enemy base. So this is kind of post-mid-fight. Someone's won, and someone has the shield breaker. They're walking towards your base, and the timer, I believe, is about 1.5 minutes. It seems a bit off. So I might not be understanding something, but that's my impression of it. You go to the base. Then once the team with the shield breaker gets to one of the bases, they put the shield breaker down in the base, and you now have to wait 30 seconds for the shield breaker to break the shield. And keep in mind, there's nothing else to do. You're just waiting for that for 30 seconds. And then there's an attack-defend portion. The team that deployed the shield breaker, they now have to put bombs on all the bomb drop points. There's 3 of them, and they're all 30 seconds each. So the minimum amount of time it can be is about 1.5 minutes. If they can't blow up all of the bomb drop points, it goes back to the shield breaker spawning in the middle of the map. It basically resets to another mid-fight. And just repeats until you get to... there's a point system. It's really weird. Basically, if you fail an attack, you lose 30 points, and you start with 100 points. The team that has 0 points loses. So it repeats either until one team blows up the other team's base, or until one team has no points left. And so when I describe to you the amount of time it takes, I'm just looking at how much time I've got written down for the timers. Securing the base and gearing up is 3 minutes. The mid-fight, I've also made 3 minutes. Then another 2.5 minutes, just doing nothing, waiting for things to happen, walking to the enemy base. Technically, in the walk to the enemy base, you can get attacked, I think, but like if you wipe a team, it doesn't matter, because they're just not going to attack you while you're on the way. So it's a bit variable. But there's a 30-second wait after that point, and then 1.5 minutes of attacking and defending. So there is more of the game. I'll flash the numbers on the screen. There's more of the game focused on doing nothing and not fighting people than there is on fighting people, and it just makes for a really boring gameplay experience, because so much of it you're just in this massive space running around doing nothing. And there's nobody to fight with you, so there's really not much to coordinate. It's just empty time. It's just filler, basically. So it's a lot for no reason. So that's like the nerdy gameplay design portion of the video that I care about. But there is obviously a big elephant in the room in that. Jeff Keighley highlighted this game at the end of the Game Awards, and so for a lot of people, it attracted a lot of attention. And obviously, immediately when the footage dropped, it was compared to Concord, which was another very hyped up and very unsuccessful game. And so there are people saying that the people who were skeptical about the game, they kind of willed that like negative perception of it into existence. And it's kind of it's a complex thing, because I have no doubt that the volume of hate that the game received is in large part because of that there are people who are always very excited when a game is bad like this, and who delight in talking shit about it. And so when it gets such a prominent position in such a huge show, and it is what it is, people are going to follow that out of hatred for it. And so yeah, a lot of people probably did go in not wanting to like the game, but I still think that, you know, more people would like the game if it was a good game, even despite all of this. Because I mean, there are a lot of games that people follow that they say they fucking hate, that have a base anyways. The big one for me is Quake Champions. A lot of people, when that got announced, were not happy with that. It was a hero shooter game. It had abilities and stuff, and yet Quake Champions anyways had people competing in it, had people that enjoyed it. So I think it is true that it's increased the amount of hate it received, but I also, at the same rate, don't think that because of these people, the game is doing worse than it would be. I think that the hatred around the game is just kind of a superfluous thing from people who would not care otherwise. So it's something to be wary of, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff in media, like in media critique, where sometimes people just want to hate on something because of what it is, and it's important to be careful what you bolster with regards to that. But I don't think it is incorrect to say that the game really just wasn't made for much of an audience, and the design philosophy of trying to make it appeal to literally everyone was always going to make it fall flat on its face, and always going to make it so that nobody would enjoy it. So I wanted to detail a bit, at least from my perspective, how I think you could pull like a cohesive, fully designed game out of highguard. So I've got a few notes here. And my general philosophy with it is just that there needs to be less mechanics. I mean, I've been talking this whole time about how it's just trying to do too much. There's too much going on. So if you take part of that and you focus on that being what the game is, and you just say like, look, we have these three things, or whatever, and you really focus on trying to refine that rather than making something that has everything in it. I think that will make the strongest version of the game. So the gunplay is fine. I don't think it needs any changes really. The game controls decently enough, and it's like responsive, and so a lot of that I think should be the focus, because that is what's already strong about it. So for the first note here, either make it 12v12 or remove the mounts and make the map much smaller. I don't think you can do both. To me, the way that it reads is that they wanted horses in the game, and then they decided to make it a 3v3 shooter. And then rather than rescaling everything for 3v3, they just kept the mounts and made the maps huge so that they would be useful for something. Where I think for and I say 12v12 just as a specific example that you would have seen in games like Tier 2 and stuff, but it could be any large number of players. The point is that if you want to make it like a grand battle on like a huge scale with a huge world like this, basically, or a huge map like this, you want to fill it with a lot of people, so that as much as you're traveling long distances, you're also not having long stretches where you're just not seeing people. So either do that, or keep it 3v3, or make it 6v6 or whatever, and just make it a lot smaller. Basically, make the map much smaller and get rid of the horses. That's, I think, if you're making a competitive game, because obviously this wants to be a competitive game, right? That's the option that you want to go for. Just having loads of people is never going to make for a good competitive game, because it's just going to be a clusterfuck. Whereas if you refocus it this way, it's a lot more simple, and it's a lot more to the point, and you get a lot more of that action. You're not as bored a lot of the time, and you can kind of focus on drawn out fights and stuff, and have the push and pull of that be the strength of the game. My second change would be just to have less phases. I mean, you heard earlier how many there were, and it segments the gameplay in a way that I think doesn't flow very well, because you are spending so much of it not doing anything, or not being in any action. So where you have, like, the overtime phase, I don't even understand why that's a thing. And there's just so many. Basically, without being too detailed about it, because it's quite easy to understand what I mean. Just make it so that there are less differently timed phases that are stated to be different things. Make it less complex. At most, have like the setup phase and the raid or defending phase, depending on which side you're on. I think of the phases to get rid of, the most important one for me is the gear up phase or whatever, because the gameplay of just riding around looking for guns, it is just not interesting. It's not nuanced. You are just walking until you see something, and then you're just picking it up, and then, you know, sometimes you're mining gems or whatever, and spending that on things, where that could be completely gone, and you really just don't lose anything. I genuinely don't think you lose anything from that. So do that, and then for gun choices, either add loadouts or have like a buy phase at the start that is over in about 2 seconds. Both of these I think have their own strengths and weaknesses. Loadouts make it a lot simpler, and there's not as much, you don't have to worry as much about that macro level, thinking about the points you get and stuff, to get there. And it also just makes it so that you don't have the combat broken up by, like, mining those gems or whatever. And I think is the thing that I would lean towards. And it also just works better for having, like, multiple lives or whatever, and having it be a drawn-out thing, where the buy phase puts focus on that one specific life. You know, you want to keep track of how much you're spending so that you can make an important round easier. And it's really just a lot better if you instead of having, you know, limited lives, you just have the one. And so kind of related point, either have limited lives all the way through, or infinite lives all the way through. I don't think it makes sense to do both, because you don't have that cohesion where you're tracking it, which is usually something that is limited to, you know, sudden death or overtime, something like that. Something where the change is to resolve a stalemate. Whereas it's more confusing and needlessly complicated to track it like that, where it just randomly switches over for no reason. Okay, next on the list, I don't think the base needs a shield. I don't think the shield breaker needs to exist. It just adds more weighting. You know, getting outside the base, putting the shield breaker down, and it pushes through. It's just so slow, and so much of it you're doing nothing through, because you can't shoot through the shield. So you basically just get to watch a cutscene and then you get to attack, which is annoying and long, and it doesn't need to be there. Just remove that and have the main obstacle towards your progress be getting the bomb in the base. This makes it much more streamlined. You can still have the distance that you have to cross with, you know, not as far, and it doesn't have to compensate for respawn times anyways, because you respawn so fast anyway. And there's a bit more tension there as well, in that you carry something into the base that you have one of. So if you die, you drop that, and potentially it can make it so that the other team can get it. It just makes it a bit more focused, and also a bit more tense, a bit more strategic, because you're now having to protect this one person for longer, rather than it being like, okay, you get to the base, and then everyone has bombs. And so the bombs would spawn in the middle after a limited amount of time instead of the shield breaker. So you can pick up the bomb and you can take it. You can take it with you, and that kind of allows there to be more strategy in the fight for if you want to pressure the bomb spawn. You know, play more forwards where you don't have necessarily a decisive advantage, and you force them to kind of commit a bit more by yourself committing at the risk of them giving you the bomb, or at the risk of you dying. There's more risk and reward to that, which makes it, I think, a bit more. Where's my phone going? That makes it a bit more complex and just more interesting to make the decisions. And related to that, there does not need to be 3 bomb drop points in the base. Just make it 1. I don't see why there's 3 of them. Like, I just don't see what that adds to the game, because it's just like, it's just so, like, nothing. It's not anything, and it I don't know. It's a bit self-explanatory. There's not much more I can elaborate on than just, you know, get rid of it. And I do want to reiterate that I think it is a salvageable game. I think it's something that you can make something fun out of. But it's just with the intention that is clear. At least to me, it's clear in the way that the game is designed. It's never going to get there. And so while I don't think dead on arrival is the right thing to say about it, I think it would be appropriate to say that if this is something they refuse to change about the design philosophy, it's never going to work. Anyways, that was my spiel. I've never made a video like this before, a commentary video, and I don't know if I will again. But if you liked it, I don't know, let me know in the comments or something, or you know, do the things on YouTube that mean that the algorithm sends people this video. And yeah, thank you for watching.